I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Once a Ranger after quite a long hiatus due to the actor strike and a lot of other stuff that has been happening since then. We've decided to once again start up from when we last left. We are halfway through season 1. Finally, we have a long way to go, but finally we're at the halfway point. We're getting to the episodes that are kind of wonky. We'll find out today. So we're starting. I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nav and Nick, and
Hello.
We are starting with A Star Is Born. So I'm gonna hand the table over to you guys. What did you think about this episode?
That was the not eggs one, right?
Yes.
We
No,
watched the one anyway.
that is the not eggs
That's not
one.
the eggs one.
Let me pull up my notes.
Well, okay, to first start the episode, like that was the one with the commercial, right? And then the beach day.
Correct.
Yes.
A lot of questions. So Tommy is like gonna go to this audition with Bulk, and Bulk has the best amount of confidence. I think we said this before in previous episodes. Like, I wish I had Bulk's confidence for anything. He's literally going in like 100% thinking he's gonna come out on top every single time, which is admirable. But also, what I think is, I have a question about the beach day, because they were like, "Oh, Tommy, we're gonna go to the beach, right? Do you want to go?" And Tommy's like, "No, I got this commercial." But like, Bulk is able to go to the beach and the commercial.
Not only that, he gets sunburned. So there's enough time for him to get sunburned, come back, and do the commercial.
So, other question: how long are these guys at the beach?
Yeah,
like how long is the rest of the other 5 actually there? That's
the whole day.
The timeline, right? But okay, so the timeline didn't make any sense to me, because
the whole episode was kind of all over the place. Because first of all, the monster. So there's 2 monsters for some reason. Goldar's plan is so out of whack here. What exactly is your plan? To like put them in a cocoon and then get a baseball monster and then put them in a cocoon again?
Wait. By the way, the name of the monster is Babe Ruthless.
Babe Ruthless.
So good.
I wish this was a baseball episode.
Yeah.
Right. That would have been cool.
I feel like that would have been
we get one
a better.
Oh.
Yeah, it's strange that they didn't do anything with this, and it's so funny with Goldar just kind of being like, "Okay, I'll do this quest instead of taking a day off."
You can tell because with both episodes, actually, like Rita is just not there really doing anything. Like both, like her minions take initiative in both episodes. So that's what these 2 episodes both felt so weird. Like even the first 5 minutes of this episode was pretty much comedy with Bulk and Skull. Like the Rangers are there for a bit, but it's mostly just Bulk being ragged on with and I'm just like, wait, because I like looked at the time. I actually like pressed on my remote to see the time, and it was like 5 minutes into the episode. I was like, this has all been like slapstick comedy. What is going on?
Right. Just to circle back to Rita, it's an icon, truly. She's just like, I don't want to work today. I want to. And I was like, me too, Rita.
Listen.
Me too. I'm with you.
Literally. And it's like, just take a day off. Goldar's like, we cannot do that. We have to defeat the Power Rangers.
Right. Like, he's like, you have to lead us to victory. And I was like, whoa, Goldar, chill out. Like, just
this man
Take
stuck
a day
under the throw of capitalism. Yeah, right.
quit drinking the Kool-Aid. You gotta do that. Like, it's chill out. Just
and Goldar, who is notorious for failing every single time,
right.
really, really taking the initiative here.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to what Nev said about Bulk and Skull slapstick comedy, like even that was a bit weird because again, we're getting to the point, and I wish Akko was able to make it because he really doesn't like Bulk and Skull, but we're getting to the point where it is getting really, really unnecessary, the amount that they're getting shit on.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, because what was the point? Like, they just want they're not even bullying anymore, right? They
Yeah,
just
they're just going
want,
around.
yeah, like I want to be in this commercial. Like I want to go to the beach and get a tan. And were they sponsored by this mayonnaise because it had its own theme song?
Yeah.
I thought that was weird.
Maybe.
I was like so confused with like the mayonnaise joke. I was like, I don't get it. It felt like very like maybe it was I don't know.
I think this is a situation of these characters have probably become really popular by this point, and the creators can tell. So it's like with Steve Urkel, like he was supposed to just be a guest on Family Matters, like a kind of one-off or just like a side character. But he became so popular that they then just put all of their eggs in that basket and became like the focus of the show. And I feel like that's what we're seeing with Bulk and Skull. Because like I said, the first 5 minutes are Bulk and Skull is literally nothing to do. And Tommy. It's Bulk and Skull and Tommy. The other 5 are just at the beach for the whole day. Apparently no school that day, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
Right. And Tommy, his side quests are getting a bit of a stretch at this point.
I have so many questions about Tommy's like motives and like understanding his place. Again, like I think we've said it before, like he always has an excuse for something. Right. And like we know as fans that like it's probably because the footage isn't there for him to be involved or something. But like looking if I were watching this for the first time, I was like, God, he really just doesn't like these people. He just doesn't like any of them.
He takes off his communicator.
Yeah.
He's never wearing it. He's like, I can't do it. He always just shows up last minute. He's just like throwing in the towel at this point. He's like him and Rita are just like, I'm giving up at this point.
But even,
like, I don't care.
Even knowing that like it's probably due to a lack of footage, you'd think they'd put a bit more thought into why he's absent. But they're just like, oh, I mean, in this case, he has a commercial, but sometimes they're really like, he's just out practicing martial arts by the water, and his bag is away from him, and he doesn't hear, like, it's such minimal effort to find excuses to have, to write Tommy off, and I'm just like, come on, just a little.
He literally never has his communicator on him. He's like, it's like throwing his communicator around. He doesn't care about being able to be communicated with at all, which is funny because the Rangers in the next episode, if Tommy is not around for like even half an hour, they're like, oh, let's contact him. Like, we have to figure out what's going on because they didn't have cell phones, right? They're using the communicators. They're stressed. They're like, if it's half an hour, that means something bad happened.
But that's probably why he doesn't have his communicator on, because he's like, damn it, these people just keep contacting me. Let me do my commercial, man. Like, I'm trying to make money.
He is the only one that kind of didn't want to be a Power Ranger.
That's true.
So he didn't really make a conscious choice to be a Power Ranger. He just kind of is one. So that maybe there's some things to unpack with him on that one.
It's an after-school activity for him.
Right.
It's like, I can't show up, but like, if I got other things.
I don't even get paid for this.
There was this one small moment in this episode that was just silly to me. I'm making it more of a big deal than it really was, but like Bulk and Skull were like talking about the commercial, and then Tommy just like kind of aggressively gives Kim his bag. I don't know, I was just like, that's weird. It just felt off. He's just like, take this and let me show off my martial arts.
That also was strange because it's like he just took Bulk's scarf for like no reason and then like did all this stuff, and I'm like, all right, dog, like relax.
Tommy and Jason equally goad Bulk and Skull, as like they are just as bad as Bulk and Skull in terms of their like not pandering, just the way that they kind of like really are, I'm gonna say, mean to each other. And we're supposed to cheer for Tommy, but Tommy just constantly looks pissed at Bulk and Skull and is constantly trying to one up them for no reason. Like he's just like doing karate in his face, like point? Like and I don't think at this point Bulk was really like trying to show off. He's just like, oh, I'm gonna get this commercial. I mean, he's not being nice about it. Like they're both being kind of dicks about it, but Tommy kind of went over the top with his, like, everyone knows you're good at martial arts at this point. Yeah.
And that scene also is like, we've seen that now probably 4 or 5 times of him being in their face and just going, like, it's literally how he was introduced to them. He just like goes ham. And I'm like, wait, the filming of it was just way too similar. I was just like, all right, now we're getting clearly we're getting a little, repetitive in these, like, even the reuse of shots and, interactions.
I will
Right.
say because you brought up Jason at the beach, he's just doing more martial arts, and it's just,
Jason doesn't have a personality outside martial arts.
yeah,
And we see that in the next episode as well. What's your talent? Martial arts.
martial arts.
And we said this in the past because the other Rangers have these hobbies outside of what their martial arts are. And whenever there's like a talent show or something similar to the line, they all do something else. Jason does not. Like, Jason is straight up the martial arts guy. And now Tommy also is straight up the martial arts guy.
Right.
So it's just like, it's like you need something else outside of this. And I say that with love. I mean, you can make it your whole personality, but
Right.
it's just so funny.
The Power Ranger aspect of it. So they the monster attacks them at the beach, I think.
Mhm.
I remember.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in this cocoon,
Yes.
right? So they're stuck in this thing for a while.
Yeah.
They're like rumbling around, and then they're trying to contact Tommy.
And
Tommy
Zordon.
again doesn't. Tommy and Zordon, yeah, and
Yeah.
Tommy doesn't have his communicator, obviously, because why would he? But then these it takes them a while to like get to the point of like, oh, we should pull out our weapons. I was like, you guys had those the whole time. You
Right.
guys just
Right.
Yeah.
And then Jason goes gently. Why?
Yeah, put it on low.
right. Put it on low and fire on my mark.
Yeah. Why do you put it on low? Which is so weird. And another thing he said that I found was interesting. Zordon's like, oh, Scorpina's downtown, and he's like, oh, she's probably in like human form again.
Yes.
Like, why do you know that?
Right.
Like, what indication of information do you have that like led to this conclusion?
They get out of the cocoon, they get into their Zords, and they do the regular fight thing, and then they beat Babe Ruthless, the short time coming. Like, that guy did deserve more screen time. And then Goldar was there with Scorpina.
Yeah.
And then literally the next scene, Goldar is back on the moon. Scorpina's missing. So they come to this conclusion that she's a human. And then they jump out of their Zords. Scorpina makes an actual like monster that makes cocoons, and then gets bigger, and they jump immediately back into their Zords.
Yeah. I was like, oh, you just put it on standby. That's pretty cool.
This episode was such a mess. Why did we even have Babe Ruthless in this episode?
I don't
It's a
know.
waste.
I wanted more Babe Ruthless.
Literally.
Babe Ruthless is so cool.
The one thing I will say, Minhas, is I thought about that too. I was like, oh, that's interesting to say put it on low. And then I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance that it doesn't work and it would reflect back. So if you put it on low, and maybe I'm just making it a justification. But that was my one thought, was like, oh, maybe that's why I put it on low. But like, also another part, they're like in this cocoon that's barely, the length of like maybe two people, right? And then they're like, oh, there's no way out. And Jason, I think, goes, keep looking. I was like, looking for what? What are you looking for?
How are these guys the hero of the city?
Right.
And Ernie's still like, oh, these guys are the best, like all the time.
These guys are the top notch. This is who we got.
But he doesn't see the specifics, which is so funny to me. But I did like that. I always like it when the Zords have their individual fights.
Yes.
And this time we did get that. So one positive for this episode. I'm not saying this episode was fun, but the next episode was so crazy. I mean, there's not much we can say about these episodes just because they're.
This one was.
It
was.
This one was. But the last thing I would say about this episode before we move on, unless you have more thoughts, the commercial at the end. I know that they don't have, like, the actual Power Rangers show doesn't have a lot of money and budget, but inside this universe, when we're talking about just inside this universe, those guys also don't have a budget for this commercial. They use the audition footage to make a commercial because otherwise, like, Bulk goes like, oh no, you're wrong, I got the job. If I was like, if he's so delulu, like, why didn't, like, he knows that if he shot it or not, right? Like, he would have known if he went and they shot his footage, but they didn't. They just used the audition footage.
I was thinking back to the strikes, and I was like, there's definitely no union here. They just gotta use the footage that they had available. They didn't disclose to Bulk like what they were going to use his footage for.
Literally.
It's just like, wow, this is accurate. This is the most accurate thing about this show right now.
Did they get contracts? Did they get paid?
Yeah, exactly right.
No, they definitely didn't. I was thinking the same thing too. I was like, wait, how'd they put this? Excuse me, not how did they put it together so quickly? It's clear how they put it together so quickly, but it's just like, this is just so awfully put together. Like, just to wrap up the show, they wanted to show the commercial, but I was like, but that's not a commercial. That's just literally 2 clips with voiceover. Anybody can do that.
If I watch that, I'd be like, I am never going to this karate place. They can't even afford a commercial. Like this weird budget commercial.
So 2 things about Tommy, and last 2 things. Okay, so first they don't actually use the dragon dagger to summon the Dragon Zord, right? In the first fight. Mm-hmm. It just appears. So
no, I think he used it.
Does he show up? Yeah. I think he shows up in the last half.
So he shows up once, like, he finally gets out of the audition.
Right.
And then he goes. Because I wrote something about this. I think you were going to go in the same thing. So he goes, he comes, he calls the Dragon Zord. It shows up. Then all this other stuff happens with Scorpina and whatever. And, like, then they go back into the Zord. And then, like, it's like, Tommy, we need help. And he shows up again. And I was like, well, where were you the past 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, no, because I remember there's a scene, he's like, I'm here, Rangers, ready and morphed. Yeah. And I'm like, where have you, like, why, you can't just, like, be part of this conversation all of a sudden, acting like you've been here the whole time. It doesn't fly like that.
They didn't do the thing of, like, oh, I come, I help where I can, then I have to go back, because I have to get, they didn't show any scene where he, like, goes back for the audition or something like that. You're like, like, it was so jarring, because it was so disjointed, the story being told.
He really is throwing in the towel at this point. If I were Jason, I would be like, this guy is like the worst member of my team.
That is something they explore in the comic books. Like, I think in like the very first arc of like this thing where like, well, in the comics they kind of describe Tommy as more of like dealing with like a psychological episode and his like trauma being like brainwashed and stuff like that. But there is like a altercation between him and Jason that are like, yo, you like, are you part of this team or not? Like, are you gonna be here or what? Like, and I think Jason's kind of a jerk because he's like, I don't know, that guy was mind controlled for a while. Maybe take it easy. Like, you don't have to like go so hard on him. But yeah, it is kind of funny without that context. It's just funny to see like Tommy's like, I don't know if he really wants to be here anymore.
But you're right. He was mind controlled. Like, what's the difference between him being forced to work with Rita than being forced to work with Zordon, right? I mean, he's not mind controlled, but he already has the power. They're already like linked to his body. It's not like they can just like give it to someone else. I mean, later you find you can just give it to someone else.
Right, you can just give it to somebody else.
But at this point, I don't think there's any indication. I don't even think Zordon knows. I mean, I think Zordon is kind of learning as he goes as well. I mean, we've always discussed about how he's like the worst in terms of being a mentor.
He's a terrible mentor.
I think he's learning as he goes, and it's very obvious in this that like he just like, or he really wanted Tommy to be a part of the group, and like he's manipulating him. Those are the only 2 options, really. Right. And that is either way not great for Tommy. Like he had really, I mean, I guess all the Rangers didn't really have a choice. They just kind of got kidnapped.
So I've kind of like had a little bit, because I'm writing a little bit of stuff right now, and it's like motivating teenagers to do anything, or like children. Like they're not well, they kind of are. They're in high school. They're children to us, theoretically. Like motivating like young adults or like teenagers in a story like to do anything is like difficult. Unless they have a job, because then it's like really easy. Like you think of like James Bond, right? Like 007. It's like, okay, you can believe he goes on these missions just because it's his job, and like that's the only thing you need to really believe like he's gonna go do this crazy stuff. For teenagers, it's like, why do they want to do any of this? Like, why do they want to be the Power Rangers? You know, like we've seen like at the beginning they were like, oh, let's just walk away from this, and they're like, no, we're gonna be in danger if we don't do it. And I was like, okay, you guys are like righteous kids. But Tommy is like, he really just didn't want to do this. Like he was actually just thrown into it. And we see that again in the next episode, because he's like, he gets stuck, right? At the beginning of the episode, there's a talent show, right? And They got martial arts. And the moment he said, "Oh, we forgot our belts," and Jason's like, "That's fine. Like, we don't need the belts." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna go get the belts." And I'm just like, "Well, you really."
He does not want to be there.
He does not want to be there. He just like he wants to go, dude. He does not want to be there at all.
Get the hint, Jason.
I don't like you.
It's funny that you actually bring that up because as soon as you said that, it brought in a thought that like the other Rangers are always doing these like things for the community and whatnot. And Tommy mostly does stuff that are just for himself. Like, I got a commercial, like I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. Which, you know, he has every right to do. Like
right.
He's a teenager, like he's setting up his career, he's setting up his future. He doesn't really need to spend all his time doing this community service that the Rangers seem to be spending all their time doing, literally all their time doing. So it's kind of like understandable where he's like, I just can't, it's too much, guys. Like, I just want to relax a little bit. I want to like focus on myself just for a little bit.
It's so wild now looking at it like from, you know, so far away now, and like looking at this character, he's like, wow, he really want to be here. And now he will become the most important, like biggest Ranger of all time, you know?
Right.
It's just so funny to see now. It's like, I don't know how they kept this guy in the show for so long. Like he was barely in it, or like his character doesn't seem to want to be there. But again, they're like filming like at some point they're filming like more than 2 episodes a week. You know, they're just like, we just gotta churn these out. We just gotta keep moving with Tommy.
Right. Man, they definitely needed a union because like now I know why Jason and them were like, hey, we need more money, and then they just got fired. You know, when you look at the logistics of Power Rangers, it's just like not great. And like this company is not great. And even when they moved to Disney, it was not great.
It is not,
Yeah, it's not good for anybody.
I always wonder, like, the move to New Zealand, like, how did that affect a lot of those changes in terms of like pay and like all the actors were from New Zealand, but there was a couple that were like had moved to New Zealand for the show. To at least to my memory, but just another point. I was gonna bring this up in the last episode, like the last one we were talking about the commercial thing. It's like I remember Jason David Frank used to do these karate commercials, and they used to like try to sell you the Power Ranger karate course thing. I don't remember if it was like when he was a Green Ranger, or if it when he was already the White Ranger. But it like I do remember those commercials specifically. Like they're really just like churning out these whatever they could get out of these actors.
Yeah, I had a VHS of it was called the White Ranger Kata. So...
Yes, I think that was it. Yeah.
That's so funny. They're really like milking Jason David Frank at this point. The poor guy. I mean, all of them, and like I feel like Austin St. John at this point was probably like, thank God I got a break. Like, give it all to Tommy. I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, I can't. So the yoke's on you. Man, what was happening with this episode? This episode, I feel like the fight was a little bit more cohesive than the last episode, but this because it's all about the eggs, right? Like, everything.
Which, oddly enough, I was like, this. I sympathize with this guy. I was like, he just had one thing he cared about, right?
His lunch.
Everybody lied to him. I'd be pissed too. I've seen he has more character growth than all of the other Power Rangers, because at least there's something that motivates him to move forward.
It's so funny. No, you're right. But sorry. This whole episode, all my notes are just me laughing because the whole time it got worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And it first started with Bulk and Skull.
Right.
Getting so excited about these hard-boiled eggs for some reason that are behind the stage. They clearly want to eat them. Why are they there? That was the first time I'm like, why are these eggs here? And then they never mention again with Bulk and Skull. They're like, why did they want these eggs? And then this monster comes up and he wants these eggs.
I gotta have this monster looks scary too, by the way. I remember like the reveal. I was like, this actually looks kind of creepy. I would not like to be next to this thing.
Right. No, yeah, he was This was a good this in terms of, again, the story wise, in terms of the fighting, this monster was he is a serious monster, but
Yeah,
also
he
so
was really going.
unserious. Yeah.
And read it. Okay, well, okay. So this monster was created by oh
Finster.
my god, Finster, right? A lot of initiative from the evil team these last 2 episodes. He just like made the monster, and he's like, I'm throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there. I'm just gonna put it out there. And then Rita's like, wait, who made this monster? And I was like, I don't know, maybe the only person who can make monsters.
Right.
It was-
They do have some monsters on standby though, so I can
Yeah, that's
kind of
true.
understand. But she said mate. She did say mate, so that does mean like she
That's yeah.
doesn't recognize the monster. And then she's like, "Oh, I told him it's my birthday."
So he
After-
just did it.
He just did it after 10,000 years. Nobody knows what my birthday is.
Again in the last episode when she came back and she was like, see what happens when I take a day off, and I was like, you lose regularly.
Right?
Like, you didn't want to do anything
Nothing
about
different. But she's right. What does happen when you take a day off is the fight doesn't make any sense.
this. Right.
Like, she's probably like, what was this plan?
And now
like-
it's her birthday.
Right.
So I didn't understand, because I actually started this episode and it lost me so quickly that I stopped it, and then I rewatched it this morning on like 1.5x speed. I could get through it, which is, I might be doing that for a lot of episodes of Power Rangers going forward. Like any of the ones that I know are not like important or great, I'm just gonna do it on like 1.5x speed or 2x even, because I'm just like, it's a lot to get through. But anyway, so Goldar, Babu, and Squat find these. I thought Fang brought those eggs there. But
That's what I thought too. I thought it was like he's a parent or something.
Right. I'm like, oh no, they ate his babies.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no.
But then it
I was like,
seemed
no.
like he was. I don't know. They didn't explain it. So then he was just like, no, I wanted to eat those. I was just like, wait. So that's what we're arguing about, is who got to eat the eggs?
No, but if you went to work and somebody ate your lunch, it's just like the most annoying thing like ever. Yeah. So I really, again, the last 2 episodes are really like capitalism. What?
Right.
No,
like
I know, but I thought like they were gonna hatch into monsters or something, but it was just like, no, I just wanted to eat them. I'm like, oh,
we've got too many plot points where we don't know what's inside the eggs.
Yeah.
It's happened too many times.
The yolks really is on you.
The yolks really is on us.
It's just like, what? And then why did Finster not inform them of, like, there's poor communication at a palace where like Finster could have been like, oh, I sent this monster, don't eat his egg, because they just show up. Goldar and Babu and Squat, I think Rita sent them down, but they just like appear and then they see eggs, and I was just like, what is going on here? There's no
right.
Nothing makes sense.
I like this monster because he went to Earth for a job, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I have my food for my snack break later. It's very important to me. So instead of attacking the monsters right away, he literally went around collecting his lunch. Because he doesn't attack, right? He's not like storming downtown like most of the monsters do, like as soon as they're sent to Earth. He's really like, I'm gonna prepare for the day, I'm gonna have my lunch, I'm gonna hide it here so nobody takes it.
Well, I could, okay, so maybe the little bit of headcanon that I make is that like every time they make a monster, they make it up on the moon, right? And every time they're like, from my memory, every time they're like born, they're like, what do you need me to do, evil? Like, you know, like Rita, or like, you know, they ask like what they have to do. This guy was just like born on Earth, and he's like, well, I gotta eat. I gotta take care of myself. I can't just exist. Like, no one told me what to do, so I'm just gonna go do what I want. Which more power to him.
I mean, that's the best explanation we can get, because like
right.
It's super disjointed, because what's it called, like someone, I forgot which one, but one of them warned Rita that like, oh, Tommy is gonna, you know, see this monster, I guess, and then ruin the plans. What those plans were, we will never know. But like, but
Rita doesn't even know.
Yeah, so I was just like, wait, what? I don't. Again, it was just a way to get Tommy off screen because they don't have Green Ranger footage.
Right.
But I'm just,
I mean, they like solidly captured Tommy too.
Yeah.
This wasn't like he's just like. I mean, I don't have they like caught him they could have just taken him back to the moon.
Yeah, they roped
And
him
done all
once.
that.
Remember? They like tied him up by his feet.
Yeah.
with
Oh
rope.
my
Yeah, but
god.
they just leave him there. They always just
Yeah,
like
they
tie
always-
him up or something, and they just leave him on Earth.
So I actually thought this was gonna be a lead-in to the next episodes, right? Because
Right.
they got his morph first. I was like, oh, because I don't remember exactly how the green candle plays out. So I was like, oh, maybe they took the power coin, and that's how she does the. But like, no, he gets it back. Spoiler: he
Right.
gets the morpher back.
Yeah.
But the putties are funny because they're like really good gymnasts. Like they appear and they're just cartwheeling around Tommy when they appear. I would be thoroughly intimidated. I'd be like, "What is going on? Why are you all just like jumping and cartwheeling in front of me?" Like I think one even appeared like mid cartwheel as he like goes in front of Tommy. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but you have to remember, Tommy doesn't even skip through the forest. Like he's so excited, he's doing karate as he's like going home. He's like, "Wee!" and he's like doing his karate moves. That's it. Like on his way back to the juice bar, he's just like, "Wee!" and he's like kicking and stuff like that. And the putties show up and they're all kicking and stuff like that. And then Tommy's like, "Oh, I have time to fight. Like, I have time to like kind of
Another excuse. Let's
yeah." And then like literally 2 minutes later, he's like, "Okay, guys, I can't anymore. Can you please give me my communicator back?"
Oh my
Oh
god.
man.
Yeah.
Tommy's so crazy at this point. And like honestly, he makes me laugh so hard. This whole episode, I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
I want to know what the writer's room looks like, because you brought up the green candle, and I'm like, there's no way anybody had any future sight on any of this. It's like I feel like they might get like an episode or two in advance, and like here's the raw footage, figure it out, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll come up with something.
I think they just. I think they got tired of, like having to make excuses for Tommy. So let's just strip him of his powers. Let's get this done with.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
That seems like even more work, because they took like they had to like strip 2 seasons, and like those 2 seasons were like not, or like 2 different seasons of Super Sentai, and then strip them together. That seems like way more work for the editor.
well, like
especially
you
with
said,
the Zords.
they probably had no plans for like Tommy in the future either.
Mhm.
So I think it was just. I think what happens is once he goes, they see that like there's like a lack of interest. So like, oh, we need to bring him back because this is the Tommy Oliver
Yeah,
show
we gotta
now.
bring him back, dude.
Yeah. Something happened. I think he was on a different show and they like switched. I don't know what the story was. They always talk about that. There was like a different guy who was supposed to be the White Ranger, and then they just and then they switched.
I do. I remember having the VHS tape of like the first appearance of the White Ranger, and I remember like watching it for the first time, and it was Tommy, and I was like, "This is like not as exciting because it's not like a different person."
Right.
It is kind of in the comics. They do have a friend named Matt who's like a more significant character. I think he eventually becomes. In the current comics, they have the White Ranger who is Tommy, and then Matt is the current Green Ranger. So they have 7 of them.
Mhm.
So I thought it was gonna be. So I think I brought this up in an episode before, because like one of the side characters' name was Matt, and I was like, oh my god, it's that guy. But you just never see him again.
I just never see him again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So-
Sorry, go ahead.
Because once you said it, it reminded me of what it was. Jason David Frank was supposed to be the lead in in another show called VR Troopers.
Wow.
So I think that's why they wrote him off. And the guy who ended up being the lead in VR Troopers was rumored, or at least anticipated, to be the White Ranger. So yeah.
Yeah, and they switched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
cool.
Jason David Frank has told that story in panels. I wasn't sure what was the show. I know that apparently the studios were really close to each other, and they just kind of like, as Jason David Frank told it, who knows how accurate the story is at this point, because Jason David Frank is the only kind of source we have at this point for that story. But yeah, according to him, they just kind of switched.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's true, though, because it's like, what? First off, there's no reason for him to lie about it. Second, it's like knowing how kind of not like Wild Wild West kind of those productions were. again, they're probably producing 2 episodes a week, maybe even more, and like decisions are just being made on the fly. They're like, we'll just whatever. Like, hey, he's too popular. Like, we actually can't let him go.
And it also makes sense that you would want to, for this new project, have a recognizable face, right? So like it does add up if like, okay, we're doing this new project and we need like, who better to have than like this guy who we don't have footage for the original show anyway. Like, might as well just use him here. People then, hopefully funnel in and watch that show. Because they're all Saban projects, right? Like, it all became, Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, like all these shows were just like, basically. Yeah. So it makes sense. How true it is, I mean, it makes sense though.
How long was Jason on after he became the White Ranger?
Half of season 2 is when they switched over.
Okay.
So when does he become the White Ranger? Well, we're gonna have to Google that. But halfway through season 2 is when they switched over, because I know there's some episodes with Rocky and Adam in season 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so excited for Rocky.
Yeah,
I love Rocky. I know Nub hates Rocky, but I love Rocky.
Adam's my guy, dude.
Adam is. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
So I just want to say, I'm 90% sure I said this in a previous. I don't hate Rocky. I'm indifferent to Rocky. I'm indifferent. He is so just he's just not special. He's so average.
He's a scientist. He's kind of
and he loves food. This episode would have been so good. This monster is Rocky's past life. Okay,
at least he has a personality. Okay? Like, we know things about Rocky.
Right. So good. Rocky and Adam are, in my head, the power duo. They're so great.
Oh, man.
I'm so at the time it happened, I was very upset. I mean, I was a child, but growing up afterwards and really getting to know the characters, especially after the Power Rangers movie, Rocky and Adam, I was like, these guys, I love them. They're so great. They're my favorite.
Back to the episode, the Zords. So they go into the ultra. What is it? The Ultimate Megazord?
Yeah, Ultra Zord.
Yeah, the Ultra Zord. That's with the Dragon Zord and Titanus. Is this the first time you see that final attack thing? I feel like it's the first time I've seen it with the the Z-ball thing.
Usually they just shoot a bunch of missiles.
Yeah, they're just like
blasts. Like, it's just a hellfire storm on the monster.
It's
a little
funny
overkill, but.
Right,
like for a monster who just wants eggs.
The scene,
Right.
that like I always see is like, because it's like a black background. I don't know where they are, but it's like dark, and the Zord is moving, and it's just constant fire. Like, that's
right.
my like memory of the Ultra Zord is just that. It's just a barrage. So this was
stop, it's already dead.
Yeah, this was just like a ball of energy that just like hit him, and then just like he just.
It was so sad because he was like, Rita says you guys have my eggs, and Jason's like, we don't got your eggs. They lied to you, and if you don't stop, we're gonna destroy you. I felt so bad for him. I was like, he's just confused, being manipulated right now, and then they just blow him up.
Right. I feel like the Rangers could have went this in a more diplomatic route, like, hey, if you leave us alone, we'll help you find eggs, and you can live on a different planet.
Yeah, right.
You can eat your eggs and like have your lunch all the time. Like, you don't have to fight. We'll get you away from Rita. And I think, like, in terms of how they treat monsters in season 1 as opposed to how they treat them in like SPD, this is like a vast difference, right? In Power Rangers, if you're a monster, you're bad, right? In SPD is when you trying to start saying like, hey, maybe we shouldn't just attack them because of what they are.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, one episode they talked about it. After that,
it does happen in.
No, I'm saying it happens even before.
Oh, okay,
Trip is like.
Yes, you're right.
Trip is a mutant, and I remember that clip always shows up on my TikTok of Eric, of like, you step out of the way. Look at him, he's a freak, and I'm like, whoa.
Oh my gosh, you're right. That was like the whole point of Time Force.
Yeah. Well, so not the whole point, because like the message gets lost at the very end.
Yeah. But in Wild Force, it comes back. In Wild Force, technically is the end of the Time Force. I would say story, especially for the villain.
Right.
but then he does turn human, so
Well, yeah, that ending is so wild because he's like, he looks normal now, and it's like, oh, all his problems are solved. I was like, I don't know if that's the correct message.
Yeah. They do episodes like this. I don't know so much about the first, few seasons because I haven't rewatched like Turbo in a long time or Zeo. But like even in Space, there's an episode with Cassie where there's this like bee monster and the dude does not want to fight, but he's like being abused to fight. And he's like, you gotta fight. So he starts attacking, but he can't even really do it. And Cassie recognizes this, and then Cassie empathizes with him and actually protects him from the other monsters and Astronema. So like it's never been like well explored, but there is a conversation about like, are monsters inherently evil?
Right. I don't think Jason has the ability to really think like that.
No, he's thinking about karate. He's thinking about martial arts.
I'm gonna kill everything in my way.
He's like, how can I do martial arts in this moment right now? Like, I gotta do it.
It's the 90s.
I don't remember if it was this episode, but he just like, you know how like they have their little like catchphrases at the end, like after they do something, or like they get into the Megazord. I think it just one time he just said morph. I think I think it was just it was either this episode or the last episode. Like there's just like he just says morph. He's already in the Megazord. I'm like, what?
Jason is so crazy. Oh my gosh. In this episode though, I wish that they like did more with the talent show. Why did we only see Jason and Tommy's karate? Billy is like in this cowboy outfit.
Yeah, I want to know about that. What's going on
we
there?
don't know why. He just wearing it. And then at the end we don't see why. And Bulk and Skull's little song wasn't that bad. It's a bit self-centered, yes.
Right.
Not enough for everyone to be laughing at him or making fun of him. Like, I think it was like a fun song. Again, there's no reason. The whole school is mean to them. I
will say, like, I feel like these last two episodes, like, we just got like no personality from any of the cast. You know,
right.
Like we didn't really see any of them have like a personal problem. There was like a thing that was happening, and then there was the Power Ranger thing that was happening, and it's like you paused this to do this, and then that was over, and then they went back to this. Right. But like there was like no investment. Like I didn't really care for anybody. Like literally, I don't even think Billy said anything. Did he say anything the last?
He said
episode?
More phenomenal once.
Right. Well, obviously, like they're in their suits and they do their voiceovers, but like out of suits, like I don't think they did.
He said, "Where's Tommy?" That was it. He was like, "Oh, has anybody seen Tommy?" or something like that. That was literally. Trini probably said nothing. I didn't know Zach.
I think she said something in the first one.
I don't think Zach said a word.
No, not even once.
Yeah.
Like, both
I was
episodes.
like, wait, where was? Like, I'm just thinking about it now. I was like, wait, where was Zach? Like,
there's no. Tommy had the most dialogue out of everybody, and again, he doesn't do anything half of the episode.
Poor Zach, he got replaced by Tommy so fast. Like him and Jason used to be best friends,
right?
And now it's like the Tommy Jason show,
right? Kind of justifies that episode when he was like sad and alone because everybody thought he forgot his birthday.
I know, Zach.
Come on, like, that's like
I know where his insecurities come from.
I did like. Speaking of the talent show, going back, I did like, and they do this not only in Power Rangers, there's a lot of shows, and I love when they do this where like characters will be playing an instrument or doing something, and it happens to be the music for the actual like show. You know, like Bulk and Skull, and they're playing poorly on the guitar, and so the music, the coinciding music, is also like off key, off tune, but it's also like background music for the episode itself. And I love moments like that. It's so silly, but it's just like I don't know. I really appreciate that like production element.
I do remember there was like a part of that episode that was like an extended guitar riff. I was like, this is going.
Right.
It's kind of my jam.
That end song was so long. You could have had Billy do his little act even for a second. You could have had like a little second of each of them doing their acts, which they did do in past episodes.
Do you think it was like a cut for time kind of thing?
But they made the song really long.
That's true.
Yeah.
But when you say cut for time, maybe they didn't have time to figure out what everyone else's talents are.
They did the whole like Tommy Jason Kata as well, which we really didn't need to see more of.
Yeah, I know. Like it was. If I were at that school, I would cheer for Bulk and Skull and not Tommy because I'd be like, I've seen this a million times, guys. Like, No, I wouldn't know if I would cheer for Bulk and Skull in real life. Probably annoy me, to be honest.
Right.
Don't talk to me.
They're enduring when I don't have to actually exist with them.
Yeah, thank God. But I think in terms of entertainment value, I don't know how much I could clap for Tommy and Jason again and again for the same kind of. And I'm not saying they're not talented and it's not great,
Right.
but I feel like at a certain point when you're talking about like the general populace of the entire high school, right? Like if Tommy and Jason probably have a great following in the martial arts community, and they probably have a lot of people cheering them whenever they go to events and stuff like that. And I think that's very important and great for them. Right. But when you come to like a general high school and that they do it all the time kind of thing, I don't know. I haven't been in high school in a while, so who knows? But
no, it's an oversaturation. It's like Jason David Frank, or the character of Tommy in Power Rangers, right? Like we all love him to certain varying degrees, but all three of us have agreed we were tired of him. You know, like it's just oversaturation. I can imagine if they're doing this at every showcase, every talent show, also teaching classes, so you're seeing them do it as well. He's doing it in front of Bulk to, send him running. Like he's constantly doing martial art while he's just walking down the street. Like
right. He doesn't know how to walk through the forest without doing martial arts.
And I had the same thought. I was like, when they showed like all the friends cheering, I'm like, yeah, I probably would cheer too, but also like, I probably have also seen this routine like 8 times now. Like,
it makes. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, if I was a teenager, like going to high school with these guys, I'd be so annoyed with them. I'd be like, God, these 5 just never shut the fuck up.
I know.
They just always just keep going about their martial arts,
they're
the
also
community
the popular
service.
Kids, right? It's not like they're not popular or not well known. Like it's not like
they're
just like outcasts in the high school community. No, they're like
yeah.
They're popular amongst everyone, the students, the teachers, all around well-liked people.
And like I don't know, we've talked about how like Kimberly's kind of she's got some kind of mood sometimes, but I think Tommy was taking a while, and she's like, where is Tommy? And they're like, I don't know, like he went to go get the belt. He's like, well, he better hurry up. And Zach's like, what if he's in trouble? And she's like, nah, whatever. Like he shouldn't have left to begin with. And then they immediately go to the command center, and he's in trouble, and she didn't say anything. I was like, wow, you don't feel any guilt at all?
That was also Zach's one line. You just reminded me that.
Oh, right.
He had one line, and he was the only one showing concern for Tommy.
That's so funny.
Even being replaced by him, he's like, hey, man, I still care about that. I think about that guy still.
Yeah, I think about that guy. For some reason, he needed to go get those belts.
He needed those belts, dude. He needed
which
them.
Are just like black belts, right?
I don't know.
And no, when you see them after, they're just literally black belts. And they even mentioned the black belts. They do a lot of martial arts in the community center already. Right. I'm not sure why they wouldn't have like backup belts there, but who knows, right? Maybe this is lucky belt.
There was also like that subplot. They were like, we're losing everybody's props. So I was like, how do you lose everybody's props? Like, why are they?
Yeah, where are they going?
Where are they going? What do you mean?
Who had the eggs? What show? I want to see their talent.
I was like, Ernie, this is what you get when you expect free labor from teenagers. Like, you can't just expect them to just do a good job all the time.
Also, so like this is, I guess it's a school event because the principal's there, and they're like, "Thanks for setting this up," to the principal in the beginning. But Ernie's the one in charge with it, so I don't know what the collaboration between the juice bar and the school is. They probably do a lot of collaborations together, but it clearly wasn't actually a school activity. Like the principal just had this idea to have a talent show.
Where do they got the money for this?
I think the juice bar is subsidized by the town government. Like they have to be at this point.
But where do they got the money, dude?
Also,
I wish I had that.
A quick point from last episode. They were watching the commercial, or they're watching the TV, right? And before the commercial comes on, there's a news report, and I love that they're like, no civilians were harmed, but there was some property damage. I was like, how is it some? How could it be some? At least a whole block or neighborhood had to be taken out.
Yeah.
Unless again they went to the abandoned building district, then fine. But
always abandoned buildings. Always a power plant. Always a field. Always a desert.
Another reason why they were at the beach. That was when they finally morphed, and then they were fighting like Scorpina near water. I was like, that's why they were at the beach. That was the reason they were at the beach, because they had to match the footage.
That one actually makes sense. Yeah,
I
literally.
wonder how long they were there for. It's like that's
Dude, it
that's
had to have
crazy.
been the whole. It had to have been like a Saturday or something. It couldn't have
The whole
been,
day, yeah.
Yeah, because
You're
they.
right.
And on the summer solstice,
And
the
on the summer
longest,
solstice.
the longest day of the year.
Wait,
Because
Come
Is that
on.
canon? Was that said in the show?
no,
Oh,
it's
it
just
just
the
has
longest
to
day.
be.
Of
It has
the
to
year.
make
It has
sense.
to be the summer
For the
solstice.
amount of sunlight that Bulk had to have on top
I
of
felt it was pretty
Tommy just
cloudy,
not being
too.
there.
Yeah, and it wasn't
And-
sunset when the monsters showed up. So like,
Yeah.
there's no way it wasn't the summer solstice
It had to
at
be.
that point.
It had
Yeah.
canonically is the only thing that makes sense, really.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the whole thing breaks.
yeah, the longest day, extra day.
The longest day.
Yeah, these were weird episodes to
They
These are
to
were.
weird
wrap it up.
episodes.
Honestly, it's
To
just-
wrap it up. Yeah, honestly, these episodes
Weird.
were so wonky. I feel like maybe it's because we took a break, but these feel like wonkier than any of the episodes that we've seen. Like,
Right.
these are so crazy.
I think it is just these episodes because like
Oh,
the last few I remember watching, I was like, I'm into this. Like I
Right.
was, especially the character centric episodes where you get to like see their personalities or like they have their own little things going on like on a more personal. I think it's really tough like when you have all 5 of them and it's like, how do you make the whole story about all 5 of them? It's like you don't really have a focus for any of them. There was no focus for any of the Rangers in these last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
like things happened. You know, when I always talk about like in a story room, you can always tell when there's a cohesive story, as opposed to when they're like, and then.
Yeah.
These were definitely and then episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the last. These 2 episodes definitely were like and then episodes. I wonder what like. It's always like so interesting to like see because like these are the show is essentially made to like sell product, right? Like toys and
Right.
stuff like that. And it's like there's so many episodes, and it's like what is this like selling me the Megazords? I guess because there's so many Megazord. There's so much
Mhm.
Megazord footage in these last 2 that we watched. And like watching newer Power Ranger episodes, it's kind of like you crack the formula of like you introduce the team, then they each have like their own centric story, and then one of them gets a new gadget, one of them gets a new form, there's a new monster, there's a new Megazord, there's another new Megazord, you get the 6th Ranger, then you do the whole cycle all over again.
Mhm.
You know, it's like every episode is like, oh, there's a new thing to sell you, you know?
Mhm.
These episodes are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from this.
There's no lesson. There's no anything.
There's a lot of no lessons in some of these episodes. There's
So-
again like this and you know like just keeps
Yeah.
going.
I think, to your point, Nick, I think with this, because the show was still so new, right?
Mhm.
They probably had a lot of toys, but not so much, right? It's not
Mhm.
like, again, with newer seasons, there's a formula of like, okay, after like maybe the first 10 episodes, once you've established every character you've given them, then we introduce a new weapon or a new Zord, you know, like, and then we slowly keep introducing new Zords. But back then, there was no formula, right? So I think they're navigating like, okay, what do we do with these characters? It's super popular. What do we do now, right? Because they were just
Right.
making
Right.
like a basic action show for kids, but so they didn't have like a overall premise or overall arc, you know, like for these characters to go on. So I think sometimes they just hit a point where it's like, and probably rushed for time. They're like, eggs and monster and Rangers fight. That's the formula, right? Like, so it's just they just literally throw things at the wall and see what cracks.
I think the biggest time I recognized that formula was like Wild Force because there's so many Zords in Wild Force.
Yeah.
And
Samurai, dude. Megaforce is also pretty bad with it.
Yes.
yeah, it's like every they do the that's where I like recognize like there's a new Megazord and they gotta go find it. There's a new beast and they gotta go tame it. And then the 6th Ranger comes and he has 3 new Zords. I was like, whoa. It's
These
when they
guys
start,
are
like,
overpowered.
making like the parts interchangeable, especially
Right.
like when the toys are interchangeable. They did that with Wild Force and they think they did that with I don't think they did it in space. but they did. I know like that became like a trend. Like the Megazords were like interchangeable, like change the arm. Oh, Ninja Steel or not Ninja Steel. Ninja Storm did that where like they would just change the arm and then it's like a different Zord or something like that. It's a formula I didn't realize like was so significant and like so identifiable with like Power Rangers. I've been watching a lot of like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider again. It's like Japan really pushes toys now. Like every episode is like new thing, new card, new character, new weapon, new form. It's like, God, there's 52 episodes of this. Toy stores are probably insane.
That's why, like,
capitalism once again.
Capitalism.
For me, like, I think I mentioned this either off camera or in one of the earlier episodes. I skip a lot of the fights because I don't actually care. I like to see the character moments, whatever little we get of it, you know. And I think that's the biggest issue with these two episodes because, like, even if you look at Tommy's story, it's not like he's worried about getting the part or he doesn't have the confidence. He's like, well, I've never been on camera. Like, I don't know what, like, there was none of that even, you know, that little, we've gotten that before where Jason's like, okay, he's like, I can't bench press this thing. Yeah, it's a silly premise, but like, at least he has an internal hurdle to overcome. Tommy was just like, oh, I have this audition. And like, so I can't be there for my friends who are trying to save the world. Like, that's literally his story. It's not like, it's not, oh shoot, am I going to be able to get this part because like this will lead me to better opportunities in the martial arts, you know, community or whatever. It's just like I have this thing, you know. So I think that was like the big problem with these two episodes. It was like there's this thing. We have this. In the second one, I need my belts. Like, that's not a problem, dude. Like,
He's like, tough luck, guys.
That's
I gotta
go. Internal struggle that we can connect with, right? Like Billy doubting himself and his intelligence, or Trini, you know, not comfortable with, you know, her ability as a martial artist.
And her heights. Fear of heights.
Yeah. Like, again, they're simple because it's for kids, but we can still connect with that. Like, I have a fear of heights, so when they show that scene, I do hate that scene. Like, it gets me. Even though I'm watching it, I'm still like, yeah, don't go near the edge. Just, that's a good idea. So, like, there's ways to connect with that when it's something internal or personal. These two episodes had nothing internal or personal. It was all external.
When they revamped the MMPR with like this, they're like, we'll update the graphics, and they looked terrible. But the thing, they like skipped a lot of episodes, and now I'm really seeing why they did that. They're like, you know, we're just gonna have like, we're gonna streamline it and only have the important episodes. And when I first heard that, I'm like, what's the point? But now I definitely see why they did that. Yeah,
we should have maybe done that season.
Now we're here for a good time. It's but even like with how bad these episodes are, like I'll put them on and I'll like be doing something else, and it's just like I can't help but just like feel happy that like it's on the TV. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I was happy. I definitely was laughing. Right? It definitely wasn't like mad or any other feelings. It was definitely happiness. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Or I happened a few times where like a detail would happen and be like, when did this monster just like randomly show up? I had to like rewind it like a minute, and I was like, oh, it just showed up. Like there's no reason. It just did.
It just did it. That's so funny. Yeah. Well, next episode we're gonna do the Green Candle. That one is a significant episode. Very, very excited for it. We're finally getting into the meat. Green Candle. Yes, continuity. But until then, I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nav and Nick, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Once a Ranger, always a Ranger.